Okay, welcome all. It's these are the times we live in. Ideally, we would like to have a in-person session with many people asking questions, but these are different times. But let's make the best use of these times. The show must go on. So without any further ado, let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Hemant Roda. I'm a partner in PwC, handling cybersecurity, and I do have esteemed panelists with me. I will ask each one of them to just say a line or two about themselves, and then we go into specific questions pertaining to the theme of the day. So, in no specific order, Archie, just introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Hemant. I'm Archie Jackson, Head of IT and Security at Inseedo.
Thank you, Archie. Neha.
Hi everyone, I'm Neha Taneja. I'm the CISO for Kane Oil and Gas Vedanta Limited.
Thanks, Neha. Kapil.
Hi, my name is Kapil Mehrotra and I work for NCML and working as a CTO.
Thanks, Kapil. Satish.
Yeah, hi Hemant, hi all. Satish here, Satish Kumar Divashu. I work as a CISO at Inmobi. Now, earlier I was with the fintech organization called Vidmo. That's about me. Thank you.
Thanks, Satish. Kunal.
Hey everyone, Kunal Pindra. I work as a head of IT for LTI, which is part of Larsen Together.
Thanks, Kunal. Uh, you know, Everyone, you can see the panel is comprised of people from various industry lines, various backgrounds. So naturally, I hope to get some very diverse, but still a little bit of consistent opinions. So let's see. Uh, I think the most pertaining question or the most pertaining topic nowadays is how the world has changed. You know, Maybe a year or so back, we were all required to be in office, required to be working with each other, and the whole ecosystem could be secure in such a way that certain things you may not expose over internet. That was the mantra of security. But come national lockdown and the new normal, which is working remotely, this has changed. The basic assumption has changed. So the new challenges have come up. Uh, Obviously, as security professional, we have taken new initiatives. So let's hear from our panelists. What challenges they faced in new normal, or what initiatives they have taken. So Satish, I will come to you first. Satish, reflect your journey in last year or so.
Okay, so basically, if you go back, anyway, I think calling it new normal may not be anymore. I think it's going to be normal now. This is the new, or rather, I should say, the next normal. So having said that, so traditionally, if you go back, the traditional security approach, the defense in depth approach, and traditionally we had a lot of controls right at the perimeter and in a confined environment, which is going to be a challenging thing. And I'm sure each one of us, right, we have discovered how do we strengthen all those things and redesign our whole environment. Again, depending on the organization context, of course, like see, of course, recently I moved to InMobi, but before that, I was with the fintech organization where the card data environment and all right. So the challenges are different in the context of the environment. So probably, of course, some organizations were already prepared, rather the workforce were already enabled to work from home. They never had any challenge because they're prepared. But especially organizations like for example, bank or a payment organizations where they are dealing with sensitive data, that is the challenge where they had to probably go back and redefine a lot of architecture changes. Means trying to balance both sides, security as well as, of course, because finally it was a lockdown situation. We had to enable because finally the CISOs became very important, or the CTOs and CIOs and all together. How do we ensure that this workforce is basically productive, right? Because finally that was the whole mantra. How do we quickly enable the business to come back to at least, if not normal, at least to some way how to continue business. So that was very interesting. I'm sure it was interesting times, but I think we all quickly. I think it was it was a need, right, to be more agile and quickly get back to action, and it was done. Of course, few organizations probably had challenges, but otherwise. Uh, but yeah, but I think it's a journey. It's not that you just quickly. But yeah, I think many organizations were prepared, continued, but a few organizations had to redefine their whole networks. Like while traditionally we all had VPNs, but I'm sure most of us, right, we went through so many of, I think in the last 1.5 year, right, we all were talking zero trust, right? It's all about zero trust. And while zero trust is not a technology, it's more like a, what do you call, I should say, model, right? To ensure that allow, you allow people, right? And, but equally balance that and see that how you only give the right sort of access. So very interesting times. But having said that, I think we have come a long way. In fact, all of us we have come a long way to see that we really support business to achieve the broader objectives.
Thanks, Satish. And like you said, there were technologies in place, but we were not using it. And I think the biggest issue was the speed. It's not that it was a project we could plan and take months to execute. We just have to do it in hours. So Kunal, being part of L&T, a large group, large group has its own ways of working. So what were your challenges and how you handled that?
I think our biggest challenge was to make ourselves understand that people would work from home. More than enabling anybody, it was very hard for a company like us, which is into IT, ITES, to just digest that everybody has moved home and we can still work. Because majority of IT, ITES companies, we don't work for ourselves. We work for our clients. We work in a ODC model. We start from a banking and financial to an oil and petroleum to some consumer electronics company, to any industry you think of. And majority of industries which Indian IT, ITES industry support globally are governed by some of the other rules globally. So banking and finance, every country has a different ruling. Whereas on oil and petroleum companies, European companies have a different set of rulings to a US company. So we were very, very driven by the ruling of the countries. But suddenly everybody was supposed to go home. And now biggest challenge, and I'm on the second side of the table, or I'll say I am on the other side of the table. I am not CISO. I'm a head of IT. I manage internal IT. So we were always pushed by our CISO communities. So you need to make it secure. And our counter to that was, now everybody's at home. Now think of security completely a different way. Now the policies which were supposed to be enforced yesterday are no more valid. I can't put people behind the walls. So now you have to think over pretty much maybe from scratch for few companies, but few companies like us, which had taken an approach almost 2.5 years before, saying we'll move everything on public cloud. We were first company across APAC which had moved their production SAP on public cloud. So we were always ready for this to happen. Did we had a scale of equipments to enable? No, we did not. I think nobody in our industry ever thought that a IT industry would suddenly grow up by 25% year on year. Suddenly everyone went into lockdown. All the work globally started pumping into India. Then our dear friends in China started shutting down few semiconductor factories. No equipments available. So figure out what would you do, enable personal assets, then put in security, bring in your VDI components, which again, few industries allowed, few industries said no. So our biggest challenge was, how do I enable an employee who is sitting at home, who wants to work, but he's not able to work? That became the biggest challenge for us. Security is paramount. It has to go with what you do. I would say, if you're in office, it's a different type of security. If you're at home, it's a different type of security. Security has to just, you can't think about making something secure. There used to be a word, and I'm little old style. People used to earlier call it make anything which is foolproof, not foolproof. This used to be a term which my leadership used to tell me, whatever you're setting up, make it foolproof so everybody can do. Now that foolproof word has changed to zero trust, that you can't trust on anybody. It's just a new fancy word that has changed. So you make everything zero trust. We were anyhow making everything which was foolproof. Now we are calling it zero trust. For me, nothing has changed. It's just that I need to enable more and more people, and the agility is extremely critical to me. That's the only thing that has changed for us, nothing more.
Nice perspective, Kunal. But I think one thing we all will concur that the fundamentals don't change. The basic hygiene is required, regardless of what uncertainty we'll end up into. And Neha, coming to you, Kane, it's a setup of some very smart people sitting in corporate office, and some not so technology literate people in plant setup. And both are equally critical. So how do you enable that kind of setup where there are different maturity of security with each person, but still you have to bring that consistency in. And with new normal, or as Satish said, this is the normal now. How do you manage all these challenges, and what are the initiatives you are taken?
See, Hemant very rightly said, when you were to compare the IT security maturity and the plant side maturity, so they, as of now, they don't go hand in hand. But having said that, with the new normal, they also they also have come a long way. So I'll give you basic, perspective on. See, we have a parallel, initiative through IT SteerCo. Similarly, what those kind of things, the structure, everything has been replicated to the OT side of things. But having said that, one of the major challenges I see in OT is on the awareness part and extensive access to third-party vendors. So one of the first things from the with the new normal, on the OT side, what we focused on was what all, are the accesses which are given to which are given remotely, and specifically what is our third party risk exposure. That's specific to the OT side of things I would talk of, and enhancing the analytics on that remote access of the OT side of things. Coming to again, on the IT cyber as of now, so, I completely resonate with the thoughts of the other panelists. We have also seen similar challenges, like remote access, again, exceptions to the normal policies. You wouldn't allow anybody a PIM bypass in a normal scenario, but with the current situation, you would have allowed that. So that is one of the main, certain things which I can say would span across, the exception part of it would span across organizations and verticals. Second example which could come to my mind is that, too much of focus on sudden ramp up of the cloud infrastructure may have led to the change control element missing. There's so much of precedence on getting it done quickly that the basic control around whether the RBAC, the audit logging, a continuous monitoring, tool like Dome9 or something on those lines for the cloud, those perspectives weren't really, now they are baked in, but not at the onset when, the cloud journey was like too fast because of the sudden, the new normal coming up. And the last major point which comes to my mind is what I see as a complaint also, as a feedback also, is that there's a lot of spear phishing increase which the users, feel that they have been subjected to. So, and again, these things, when I say spear phishing or when I say exceptions to the normal logical access and the cloud ramp up, I feel would have spanned across industries and verticals. It's not just confined to my industry segment or BFSI. This is something which would have been faced across, because of the sudden change. We were not used to using collaborative technologies extensively for conferences like this, and how to prevent basic data leakage elements while we use these collaborative technologies. So that again, this is new for us. So we are trying to see how we can leverage the existing solutions to become more secure.
Thanks, Neha. And yes, targeted phishing, spear phishing, and hackers nowadays, they sometimes are more knowledgeable about your business than you yourselves are. They understand how to abuse or misuse that. So absolutely in concurrence with that. So Archie, coming to you, you are part of a tech company, or you are leading an important agenda where presumably, and then you can guide us, people are reasonably aware of the digital initiatives, the technologies. So maybe awareness part, I don't know how big that challenge was, but still reflect on your journey of what are the cyber issues you faced in this new working model, which is here to stay, and what are the initiatives you took on.
So very first, if I talk about, my job was to enable the business and also safeguard the business as well. So being the head of IT as well as managing the security, it's both cats and dogs altogether. So the opportunity that I had was looking and having the visibility of both sides. At the end, eventually, it's the business and making the business productive, making the business resilient. It shouldn't fall off. It should be still scalable while we are working from home. It should overall perimeter, it should be completely secure. So as an organization, there are so many IPs, intellectual properties, our products as well. Similar to PayPal, we have Incido Pay, which is a lot of customers use in the US for payment and all. And similarly, there are other intellectual properties, products, softwares in analytics and in AI and various different aspects. Now, making sure the entire organization is 100% working from home and scalable, resilient, available. All these three aspects had been, I mean, no CIO, no CISO would say it was a vanilla and it was very easy for them to enable. It was really a tough job, but we have been fortunate because we had a roadmap that was already in pipeline. And that roadmap was cloud first adoption. Second was making, and with that cloud first adoption, the journey is making it centralized as well as decentralized. So there are two aspects. One is centralization of our backups and also making sure that centralization of backup and business continuity is decentralized across locations. And we don't, we are not completely dependent on a particular location globally if anything fails. Plus, there was, again, as a planning, as a strategic activity where we identified a lot of products, next generation products, from the endpoint perspective, from gateway perspective, from network perspective. All of those had been in pipeline, with which I'm fortunate, happy to say that there have been so many ransomware spikes during the month of March till May 2020. And there was another huge ransomware spike that started in November up till February 2021. And the tool sets, the containment, and as we've been talking about zero trust, I'll talk through that. So with that activity, we made sure first the detection is there, and then the right remediation is there. So that, all those attacks have been completely blocked, visible into the environment, and also with the forensic activities that we perform within our own premise, make sure, for example, if there is a with the help of some threat intel tools that we have, if we get some information about user behavior being changed, it may not be user behavior, it may be an asset behavior at a particular server level or an endpoint level. With that, we go structurally deep down into the forensic, so that we can join all the dots. It may be an APT, which may be triggering within the environment and working across an algorithm, which would trigger at some later point. It may be simply residing dormant until it will trigger. So all of that, with the help of forensic, we were able to successfully maintain, and we are actually into that same new normal, which definitely would continue.
Yeah, I agree, Archie. And I like the concept of centralized and decentralized. We can't be dependent on a single point of failure, and I totally understand that spirit. Kapil, coming to you, NCML, one of the large commodity services management, and you have an interesting landscape of, which is very, very hinged on the supply chain of agri and non-agri products. And how did this new way of working affected you? What were the security challenges you faced, and how you handled them?
As you rightly said, this is one of the large company, and where we are a group of the 6 companies which I'm handling it. And the biggest challenge is basically centralization. So we did it when I joined this company. So the first thing what I have done is like moved everything on a Azure cloud, because managing like 6 data centers, it was very difficult for me actually. So the first call which I have taken, right, let's have everything on a cloud. That solved my lot of problems actually, because your core assets are moved on a cloud, right? Uh, so those things resolve your, planning, because whatever I was planning for only one, right? And then we have written the policies. According to the policies, everything was getting enforced to the different line of businesses. Second challenge was, which was bigger than, because people are working from home. So because of that, we have changed entire policy and compliances, right? But I have taken a very conscious call there. I have done some innovation, because these things will continue now. So it's a learning actually. So what we have done is we have created various policies for the work from home and the normal norms, right? If your business is coming normal norms, so then you have to just switch your policy and compliances, you can achieve, right? If business is going back to the, is this kind of situation where lockdown situation is there, so you have to just switch there, right? That way you can save a lot of time, lot of effort, actually re-effort, right? This is what the one of the innovation what we have done, and these we learned with the time actually. Another thing is like whenever people are working from home and you have a 6 entities and you don't know the behavior of the users, what type of users actually they are, right? What type of behavior they are having it. So another big challenge was that, like, because these users every day they are latching on their home network, right, which is more vulnerable, right? One side you are having the good security provision, everything you have in place, but they are latching outside, somewhere, like a cyber cafe. So similarly, like they are latching in a their home network, and where you have weakened your policy, because when they are going at home, so the policy 2 we have enforced, which we are saying is, like, this is work from home policy, which is not that kind of secure which we were having for the normal norm. And your critical assets are over on the internet, right? So there we were having a lot of challenges. Then we have learned the cases, and the few things I want to share it. One is the social engineering tactics. Through internet, you will see work from home scenario. You will see a lot of social engineering tactics are applying on the users, end users. Number two, as we were talking about, like there are some vectors, they are very active now these days, phishing attacks and all, they are very active now. So it's very easy to find out about your information going on a LinkedIn and the website and everywhere, and they are creating the interesting mails and they are sending it. So many users are getting compromised. But awareness is the only thing which can save your, because there is no tool meant to stop them, because they are always using the domain which is whitelisted. Definitely no tool can stop, and your phishing attack mails will come to your end users. So only awareness can save you. So what we do is every 15 days we are repeating the awareness session, myself actually taking session for the whole organization, broadcasting it to the MS team, which really saved a lot actually. And now we have created another innovation, last innovation, what I want to share it, which is called Central Business Asset Monitoring System, which typically people say SOC operations, right? Interestingly, when you switch over on a work from home scenario, everything is a vulnerable. Your team 1,000 times will ask with you, sir, this is normal or this is abnormal. So you cannot differentiate the anomalies. You need lot of intelligence for that. So because you have weakened your policy, you created a lower policy for the work from home, and now you are talking for the stopping anomalies. And anomalies, stopping anomalies, then humans, they can't read and they can't analyze it, they can't differentiate it. They will come definitely, sir, what is, can we allow, can we not allow? And every day 15-20 minutes we are having debates, sir, these are the vectors we have seen, these are the attacks we have seen, these are the anomalies we have seen. And I'm really I don't have same to accept that. I'm also failed to understand those because my intelligence is not that, because we are relying always on a tool. Tool is doing everything for us. We don't know what. Morning coming, okay, seeing reports, okay, these all things happened. Then block it. But if someone is asking question and asking for decision, you can't take it in the work from home scenario. That was real pain area for me actually. So these are a few learnings what I have done it. But interestingly, we are able to manage. We are able to manage because of proactive monitoring. Secondly, the awareness. Over to Hemant.
Thanks, Kapil. Very nice insights, and I agree. As I think Archie and Neha also mentioned, the attack volume or the kind of threats and the complexities of threats, the volume of threat, it increased for every line of business, and still managing that on one side, and managing the new kind of queries, as you said, the new anomalies that come, and sometimes those anomalies are no longer the anomalies. So absolutely, these are some of the things we grappled with. And another thing which we all have to grapple with, and that's theme of my next question is, while these attacks are increasing, we have to maintain a certain security posture. There's a certain level of economic uncertainty. Initially, we thought last year first quarter was the only quarter we have to grapple with it, and then things will stabilize. But now, as I read in research papers, there's another level of economic uncertainty that's coming in. Yes, some businesses will do well. They are in that kind of business, but largely the ecosystem is not very sure of how the economics will play out. Hence, there's a pressure from CFOs to optimize budgets. We can't reduce the security posture, and the threats are only increasing. So it's a very difficult equation to solve. And I will not solve that equation. I will ask Archie to help me how to solve that equation. Archie, how to go about with the pressure on optimizing your budgets and still maintaining a security posture.
Thanks, Hemant. Quite a tricky question. Okay, so see, these kind of challenges, most of us, in fact, most of us experience on day-to-day planning and execution. So the very first point, I mean, the way I execute these things are first, we need to buy in from the budget. There may be a set kitty for a particular year. There may be some unprecedented planning or unprecedented budget requirement that may come in, which may exceed the existing budget. So all of that need to have a good ROI or some benefit or some reference. I mean, a fire extinguisher doesn't have an ROI unless until the fire is there. So security has the similar kind of a thin line. So there may or may not be ROI against everything that we invest in. The ROI may be in terms of reputation, ROI may be in terms of productivity, business productivity, and as well, which can be quantifiable or maybe in the qualitative perspective. My approach is to first simplify the requirement and link that with the overall business strategy and business objectives. For example, like all the tool sets, all the budgets that we have been successfully been able to implement and execute. It had been, I mean, I joined the organization less than 1.5 years. And at the very first 3 months, I brought in a lot of investments, especially into security and other networks areas, even changed a lot of concepts, tool sets and all, which were unplanned because it was a running budget of the previous year. Now, I related that with a specific requirement and the business goals and objective first. Second is as long as we are able to simplify and talk through in the financial terms, in the business terms, things, no business leader would reject or decline to invest into these areas. Because at the end, eventually, we are making the organization move to the next level, making it more ready for the next leap. So things like execution of a complete change in the web gateway that we had and a completely endpoint solution that we changed. So we created an apple-to-apple comparison, created a cost comparison, created a delta, with the benefit analysis, it showed like we had a big difference between all the benefits that we would be gathering from the respective tools, and strategizing how effortless it would be for the existing SOC and NOC teams, because a lot of things we do manually with, let's say, implementation of EDR solution or an XDR solution. It would ease out a lot of work from the SOC perspective, because it would utilize the AI perspective as well as user UBA, and give very clear analytical visibility of the entire posture. There are tool sets like there was one tool that I was going through. It gives you a complete visibility of all the phishing emails that has been in a particular environment. People may or may not be aware of the inflow of phishing emails, but that tool helps to identify how many phishing emails have been in the environment, who all have received it, what amplitude percentage. It gives a very good analytical view. A lot of tools are there in the market. From SDLC standpoint, software development lifecycle, there are tools which do vulnerability assessment by being inside the particular tool. We don't need to execute VA from outside. Those tools would be within those particular application, create 100% assured positive alerts. Such are the tools. And if we could ease out the effort, if we could enhance the credibility of the application, the products that we develop for the organization or for our customers, definitely budgets would fall in. Thank you.
Yep, I agree. Simplification and as you said, having that business conversation with the business leader and articulating the risk to them, because for some investments there may not be a mathematical ROI, but if you articulate the risk question rightly to the business leader, maybe you can convince them. Neha, coming to you, as you said, in your parlance, IT is at a different security maturity, OT is at a different security maturity. But as we see, and there was a recent attack on a US oil and gas facility as well. So with cyber attackers targeting more and more national assets also, and assets which can create more havoc than enterprise IT, there's a need of security investment. So how are your conversation going when there's an economic uncertainty, but there's a need of security investment?
So, Hemant, as I said, this is a thing of the past when I said OT was not at the same maturity, a year back when I joined the organization. But then the focus was already there in terms of, getting OT on the roadmap. So if I were to say that IT is at 4, OT may not be at 4, but it is not at 0. So that is, so the acknowledgement and the understanding and the implication of, if something goes down over there, that understanding is there at the leadership level. So again, from the budgeting standpoint, as you point out, the main, what I understand for any organization, anything pertaining to a compliance requirement. So for example, anything which enables us to be SOX compliant. I'm taking SOX as an example because it's a binding on us, right? So no organization or leadership would anyways, impact the budget in that particular area. Secondly, what I would say is that if the need comes to prioritize, like the example which you took for, Kane specifically, IT versus OT, if I see that, IT, my major exposure surface is covered, but OT, I need to kind of get it from maybe 50 to 75%. So, and if I translate that need, that what are we preventing by doing that, I don't see a budget constraint over there. So it is more about, if you have to prioritize, so you have to kind of explain that what are you proactively preventing. As Archie had taken the example of SOC use cases. So, if the APT cases of data exfiltration, if you have those kind of use cases, what is it that you're preventing for your organization is something you need to sensitize the leadership about it. And as of now, I do not, even with the economic uncertainty, I do not see organizations, trying to cut down significantly on the cyber security budget, because the nuances, I think people are becoming more and more aware as the number of attacks are growing. And then again, each of us is also focusing on, the awareness of the end users as well. Kapil took, I think, example of training. Ours conduct, we simulate phishing, we simulate vishing. So people are becoming aware, including the leadership. So I do not foresee that, cybersecurity will asked to cut down, budget significantly.
Very, very good view and very optimistic view. I think we all need that. So thanks, Neha, for sharing that. Moving back to Kapil, and then I will come to Kunal and Satish. So Kapil, you said one of the decisions you took was mostly being on cloud. Uh, was it driven by optimizing the cost, or was it more to do with the kind of service you want to maintain?
See, cloud is never cheaper actually. It's a long-term journey actually, right? So, but I'm a big fan of a cloud. So I always believe because you will get the consistency, right? And the you can get the best of the best security. Go for the always 8-year type of cloud providers, and you will get at least the basic hygienes every day. For that you are struggling, that will be rid of. I'm not specific like cloud, Google or Microsoft, whatever. This is your choice actually, your budget actually. But please do not compare cloud with the on-premise ever to find out the ROI, right? Uh, it's for the betterments, because you have to see the business type first. What type of business is? Because my business is very dynamic, right? We are closely working with the regulated industry, where tomorrow you might be knowing the farmer bill, right? Maybe tomorrow something else will come up, right? So accordingly, we have to change our business type and we have to improve our business scenario. So for that, like we have to have scale up our business accordingly. That's what like we do. And coming to the security part of it, like security, wherein my experience dealing with the management and the board and the CFO is little different. I applies always trick actually. One thing which I learned over the period is like whenever you talk with the board or a CFO, they will not agree. But time has changed. They will definitely give you support, but they will not give you the full budget, right? Then you have to have always create a scenario where you have to talk for the tangible and non-tangible benefits, right? Uh, so definitely there is a no terms in where you can give the tangible benefit. Definitely you have to show them non-tangible benefits are more whenever you are going for the security, and it's an incident based. Whenever incident happened, then you will realize one day, right? And their training play the major roles whenever you are giving the training. So there's somewhere back in the mind things will register and they will ready to support you, right? And this is again like a cloud. Security is a cloud scenario where you cannot compare ever the ROI, right? Like if somebody will ask, like, give me the ROI for the cloud, so definitely you will prepare the 5-year plan or 10-year plan to basically show the ROI. Similarly, the security plan is there, right? You have to always make the long-term plan. Otherwise, this is just eyewash.
I realize that when you are running security awareness program, the maximum attention you should give to the CFO.
Correct. I totally agree.
So I really like that idea. That's very, very old thinking. Absolutely. So coming to you, Kunal, you, like you said earlier, you were getting into those debates or interaction with CISO office to enable security, and whereas your major focus was how to make sure the employees who want to work can continue to work, basically ensure everybody has an asset with them. Now that looks like a very easy, you will have a lot of funds, or you will be able to just generate assets out of the air, or was it like that, or was it different for you?
I do not know what the word I should be using here. You don't get laptops hanging on trees, right? You can't just go and pluck laptops out of a tree and give it to employees. Same way, if you have to spin up VDIs on a public cloud, the money is not lying on trees so that you can just go and pluck money and say, hey, Mr. Hyperscaler, spin me 20,000 VDIs and done and dusted. Even if you can spend that much of money, an employee should have some personal asset at home. So you need to play with all permutation and combination. And I have a different analogy to all of this problem between a CISO, what you said, that we used to go and have some kind of a arguments between CISO team and our team. A CISO function and IT function are typically two front wheel of a two-wheel drive car. If any of it breaks, car can't run. But you can't run it anymore, at least in the new scenario, like a car. You have to run it like a three-wheeler. The front two wheels have to come together. A CISO has to think like an IT person, and an IT person has to think like a CISO. And I agree to what Neha said. I agree to what Kapil said, and what Archie said, that you can go and explain it to your CFO about the threats that are in market, make a long-term plan. Think about a scenario. A CISO goes to a CFO saying, hey, I need XYZ money because I need to secure the environment. And parallelly, an IT head goes to a CFO, the same CFO who has to spend money, saying, I need to enable these many people. So give me enablement funds. And CFO is now in a catch-22. Should I enable first or should I secure first? So, but if both of us can go together, over-communicate. So training to users, training to CFOs is good. You're creating some kind of a training environment. But sometimes we forget that we need to communicate between ourselves. So if we can communicate between ourselves, come to a joint strategy. Nowadays, there cannot be any strategy in the company which is saying, hey, this is the business strategy and IT should follow business strategy. Or IT says, hey, I'm making IT strategy, so business should follow my strategy. Or a CISO saying, hey, this is security strategy, so IT please follow my strategy, or vice versa. So I think this is the ideal time, and majority of us have learned that all these strategies have to come together and ultimately become one strategy for enablement. Now that enablement would have multiple small enablements in between, or multiple small tiles. Everything is one app nowadays. No employee wants to go in 20 different websites. Everybody wants, give me one page where I'll do everything. I am not in an office that I'll fill one form, I'll take a printout and put it in the box for my reimbursement. Or I will not go to a HR fellow. I need to just need one phone number to which I will call. I need all the support, or I need one app. So if you think like a B2C environment, only then you would be able to, you can't fit all, but you have to fit maximum what you can. So over communicate between yourself, bring one philosophy out, bring one long-term strategy. And again, I absolutely agree to Kapil. You can't make 2-year strategy. If you're making 1 year, 2-year strategy, you're making yourself fool, not anybody else. Make something which is at least 3.5, 4 years, 5 years down the line. 5 years you do not know, because technology may just take a 360-degree turn again. But at least make 3.5 years strategy.
Sounds good, Kapil. Kunal, sorry. And, as you said, the front tires are CISO and CIO, and the fuel is given by the CFO, if I may say so. And now going back to Satish, and we will wrap up with Satish's words as well. Satish, InMobi, first unicorn startup in India, a lot of funds flowing from SoftBank and other investors. You are actually into the real B2C space where mobile advertising is what you're doing. Do you also have those challenges that there is economic uncertainties, there are funds issues, and on the other side, the security tax we all discussed, they are only growing, multiplying in fact. So how do you tackle all these situations?
Yeah, sure. So even I think it's same everywhere. It's nothing different. In fact, sometimes I feel sometimes compliance regulations drives these things much better. Like if you are much regulated environment, because I come from the fintech and banking industry, where at least the regulations, like which is like as Neha said, right? Like example, SOX compliance, one of the important driver. So, but having said that, yeah, in fact, all the startups, unicorns, they understand the importance of security, because it's very tightly coupled as part of the basic design. Because finally today they all know that business. So today I think what I keep talking, IT security, cyber security is no more just a technology topic anymore. It's a business. I should say, it's business enabler. And I think most of my panelists have spoken about all that. How all these things should go hand in hand. So we keep talking about alignment. So as my other panelists said, right, IT security and cyber security are your overall business strategy. The alignment is key. So that way, I think, having said that, equally, it is a standard problem everywhere because many times cybersecurity is looked as a cost center. It's like but until unless you do not go back and showcase the value. So value, I think that's very important to go back and give the value proposition back to the business. That's very important. But otherwise, I think now there's a lot of awareness thanks to, if you ask me, thanks to breaches, thanks to the ecosystem today. Uh, I should say sometimes it's good, right? So much of information out there, so much of attacks, breaches, and it's there everywhere in every sector, every space. So that helps the CISOs, I think, to go back and talk in the same language and make it more proactive rather than make it more reactive. Because most of the time we've seen, right? We've seen many organizations where organizations react to a situation post data breaches where investments flowing. I think those becomes nice case studies to go back and tell your CFO or tell the management that let's be more proactive rather than waiting for that bad day. I think that's a good conversation we should have with the business. And I'm happy today business understands today now thanks to all this. So I think as most of my panel, I think Kapil or someone said, right, it's more the conversation with the management, healthy discussion, and that definitely will yield results. I think that's my take.
Thanks, Satish. I think one common theme that came out of these 45 minutes was that IT and security have only become even more important in this new normal or in this pandemic era. And I foresee them becoming even more and more important. Yes, there will be pressure on budgets, but these are priorities for every firm, every line of business. So as far as we articulate the risk equation right, we'll get the right investments. So great. I will first thank my panelists. It was really, really good learning. A lot of analogies you brought to the table, a lot of experience you brought to the table, a lot of insights. And I'm sure the audience who will hear this later, they will draw a lot of insights from that. So I thank all my panelists. Stay safe, take care of yourself. And this is where we wrap up the session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank
safe,
Thank you.
healthy.
Thanks, everyone.